So next up, I have two special guests who will tell us how the Chinese community celebrates Mid-Autumn. Mid-Autumn Festival is the second largest festival in East Asian countries and overseas Chinese communities. Krystal Liu, what we'll do is we will have our two guests come on with us, and then I will like to introduce them. Krystal, are you there? And Ed Lam.
Hello.
Oh, hi, Krystal. So Krystal is with the Chinese Benevolent Association. She's been a staff member of the association, and she has put together a really nice PowerPoint show about not only how we celebrate Mid-Autumn here in Edmonton, but giving you a bit more, she'll give you a background about why we celebrate Mid-Autumn Festival. Okay, Krystal, you might want to say more about yourself because how I introduce you is very skimpy, and you might like to add to what I have said about you.
Okay, yeah. Do you want me to put up the presentation slide on my own end? Okay, great. So, hi, my name is Krystal. I'm working at the Chinese Benevolent Association as an office administrator right now. Yeah, and then Lan did a pretty good job already introducing me, so yeah. Well, everybody, okay, I'll be talking about the Mid-Autumn Festival. So I'm going to talk about moon worshiping, about how it became what it is now. So it's about Chang'e Binyue. It's one of the most famous stories about how people got into moon worshiping. So back in ancient times, there were 10 suns in the sky. That means that it's really hot, and then people had to like suffer from all the heat. That's why one day, a hero called Hou Yi, he shot down 9 of the 10 suns using a magical bow and his great strength. And then when people heard about the good news, they all came to him and then wanted to become his apprentice. Later, he married Chang'e, a beautiful lady that is also very kind-hearted. So one day when he was visiting his friend that lived on a mountain, he meets the queen of heaven. The queen gives him an elixir of immortality. This elixir kind of makes him, so whoever eats the elixir, they will become a god or a goddess, and then they will fly into the sky where heaven is. So Hou Yi brings the elixir back home and gives it to his wife so she can put it away, because there's only one elixir and he didn't want to eat it and then be away from his wife. And then his wife didn't want to eat it because she didn't want to be away from Hou Yi. So yes, so they put the elixir away. When Hou Yi's apprentice finds out about the elixir, he waits until Hou Yi is away from home, and then he tries to steal the elixir. So his wife Chang'e ends up actually swallowing the elixir because she didn't want the elixir to fall into the wrong hands. So the moment she swallowed the elixir, she flew out of the window and up into the sky. Yeah. And then finally, when Hou Yi came back home and found out what had happened, he was very, very sad. So then he screamed Chang'e's name out, and then he was really surprised because after screaming her name out, he thought he saw a lady that resembled his wife on the moon. That's why every year when the moon is round, he would bring all the food that his wife likes to eat, and then he would bring it to the altar and then pray and then offer food to his wife as a sacrifice. Yeah. And that's how people began to worship the moon and the moon goddess. Now let's talk about the history of what's actually written in the historical records. So in the historical records that date back over 3,000 years ago, the only emperors in ancient China would worship the autumn moon and pray to the moon goddess. They believed that if they did it, then they would have better harvests in the following year. Thousands of years passed, and more people started to celebrate the autumn moon and started to worship, pray the moon goddess. And then it became so popular that the Mid-Autumn Festival became an official holiday on the 15th day of the 8th lunar month. And then more years went by, and then now it's the period of time where the Mongols ruled China. So in this period, there's already mooncake. Now, mooncake is kind of like a sweet pastry, usually with egg yolk in the middle, and the egg yolk is round, so it's almost like moon. So back then, people would hide messages inside the mooncake, and these messages were rebelling messages. Yeah. And then finally, now we're the Mid-Autumn Festival is the second most important holiday in China. It comes second in line to right after the Chinese New Year. So what is the Mid-Autumn Festival now? Like right now, the Mid-Autumn Festival involves a lot of features, including brightly lit lanterns, eating mooncakes together, sharing moon stories, and getting together with family. People would take a stroll outside and then gaze at the full moon, and they would admire the beautiful lanterns that are hanging outside. Yeah. And then families would give thanks to the full moon, and they would pray for good health, prosperity, and success of family members. Right. So the Chinese Benevolent Association has hosted the Mid-Autumn Festival over the past few years. So let's talk about 2015. So in 2015, we hosted the celebration at Sir Winston Churchill and in front of the City Hall. This is a family-friendly event, had activities for everybody actually, for anybody of all ages. Some activities included games, arts and crafts, performances, vendor attractions, and more. At the end of the event, people could take their wishing boats and put it on the City Hall pool and just let the wishing boat float away. If you look at the pictures, you can see that there's actually a lot of lights hanging on the trees, on posts, inside the lanterns, and on the dragons. So it's really, really well lit. Now we move on to 2016. So it's still in Sir Winston Churchill, and there's new attractions. We added the lantern making contest and the pumpkin eating contest. And we also had an event where for lovers to walk under the harvest moon together. And if you look at the pictures, you can see performances at Churchill Square, and then at night, people floating their wishing boats on the pool. Now in 2017, we had new attractions again. We had the milk jug lantern contest, and we had couple shows as well. 2018 was slightly different because of the weather. It was very cold outside. So we moved the event indoors. We actually held the event at the Edmonton Chinatown Multicultural Center. And we had mooncake tasting events. We had food trucks outside. We also had wishing lanterns instead of wishing boats. So towards the end of the event, we would take the wishing lantern and we would parade to the giant dragon boat that was displayed outside. And then we would put the wishing lantern on that wishing boat. Not the wishing, we would put the wishing lantern on the dragon boat, right? And now we're at 2019, which was last year. This was also an indoor event because of the coldness outside. So we held the event at the building where Farmers Market is right now. And in the building, so if you look at the top right corner, you can see a giant piggy that's gold. So this art piece was made by a local artist, and she used environmentally friendly materials, so recyclable materials. And instead of having wishing boats and wishing lanterns, we had a wishing where people can just write their wishes on a piece of paper and they would hang it on the wishing tree. Yeah. And then now we're at 2020. Okay, and for more events, you can follow the Chinese Benevolent Association social media account. We have it on Facebook and Twitter at CBA of Edmonton. And you can also follow our past events and our future events on our website at www.cbaedmonton.com, or you can watch the videos that we post on YouTube at Chinese Benevolent Association of Edmonton. Okay, thanks for watching.
Okay, thanks, Krystal, for a a quick overview about the Mid-Autumn Lantern Festival. Sadly, I know that it was on Churchill Square, but then because of the LRT construction, we have to move it off-site and into indoor venues. But we were hoping to be able to do it on Churchill Square again this year, but the pandemic happened. So this is why we're online. Well, but thank you for the presentation.